Hey, how's it going, everybody? Sorry I've been away for a little while. I think it's been like 2 weeks since my last upload. I had a pretty gnarly mouth infection over the last couple of weeks, but I'm finally starting to get over that with some antibiotics. So, back to the content. Um, there's been a lot going on in the political realm, particularly in Andrew Yang's camp. Being a staunch supporter of Yang, I tend to pay very close attention to his comings and goings. And November 1st was an extremely big day for the campaign. For those of you that weren't really in the loop, Andrew Yang scheduled this concert. He promoted this huge concert. It wasn't so much a concert as like a giant political rally concert hybrid, called it Yangapalooza, and Yang Gang from around the country all flooded in on November 1st. On this day, because there's a huge Democratic Party event called the Liberty and Justice Democratic Party Dinner, and all of the biggest players in the Democratic Party in the state of Iowa are going to be present, and the media will be present, and it's important to show, that you have a very passionate, potent following. So that's Andrew Yang's strategy. The Yang Gang really showed up. I remember I was in bed all day because I had that mouth infection thing going, but I was watching live streams on Yang Stream, and Paget Kagi had a good live stream going too. So I was able to keep up with that a little bit in and out as I'm, just lying in bed. It was great. It was a huge turnout. Got to see a lot of other support bases. They're vastly inferior to the fervor and the numbers of the Yang Gang. It was terrible weather, freezing, and we were just out there in force. I think there was something like 3,000 people there, whereas other candidates had in the hundreds. So that was a huge deal. And then we move into the dinner, and guys, Andrew Yang, he pretty much gave his best speech of his career. I really believe that. The whole thing was hot. He was on fire. He was weaving in and out of talking points. It looked like it was a performance for sure. It was very, very well done by Andrew Yang. And when I say performance, I don't mean disingenuine. It was just like a work of art, like him weaving all of his talking points together in such a way. But yeah, I'm going to share with you guys a short clip from the end of his speech. I'll leave a link below of the full one. I highly recommend everybody watch that. But I'm going to show you guys my favorite part of his speech, and it'll give you a little taste of what it was all about.
I am with you tonight because you must be that wave. I am not running for president because I fantasized about being president. I am running for president because, like so many of you in this room, I'm a parent and I'm a patriot. I have seen the future that lies ahead for our children, and it is not something I am willing to accept. Here in Iowa, you actually know what the future holds if you look up. You saw it happen to your farms, and then your factories. Now it's on your main streets. Soon it will hit your highways. It is up to you and you alone to turn the tide. You must be the wave that helps us rewrite the rules of the 21st century economy to work for us, to work for you, the people of this country. You must be the wave that helps give the entire nation a new way forward and gives me and millions of parents around the country the ability to look our children in the eyes and say, with truth in our hearts, your country loves you, your country values you, and you are going to be all right. Thank you very much, Iowa. Let's make history. Let's move the country forward together in 2020 and win this whole thing. I love Iowa. I love it here. Thank you.
So check this out, guys. It's a standing ovation, right? These are people that aren't Yang Gang. Yang Gang was way up in the stands up here. But they were loud. They were really loud. They made their presence known. They made Andrew Yang look really good here. Andrew Yang made himself look really good here. He delivered a very emotional speech. It wasn't entirely logic-based, data-driven, although we love those things about Andrew. He's you can see the campaign sort of transitioning into more mainstream delivery, and that's connecting with voters' emotions. He really stressed during that speech family, as a father, how that compelled him to run as president. And Andrew Yang brings this up in other forums earlier in the year, where he gets emotional over it. So, it's very obvious when you really pay attention that he means what he's saying. He takes it very seriously, and he wants to produce a great future for our children, his children and ours. And I mean, how can that not motivate you, right? It was very motivating. I watched the Bernie Sanders speech. I watched Elizabeth Warren's speech. I watched Biden. I watched Buttigieg. I watched the big ones, and no one really got the same kind of response or energy from their speech as Andrew Yang did. In fact, particularly during Bernie Sanders' speech, I don't know if they moved the mic like closer to some people that were chattering amongst themselves, but his speech, I just heard other people talking over him. Not over him, but in the background, like they weren't really paying attention. A couple of the other candidates, I could hear that as well. But you notice during Andrew Yang's speech, it's full attention for the most part. There are a few people that weren't really paying attention, but look at how many people are standing up. Like, this is real. Like, this is real attention from people who otherwise haven't taken him seriously up until this point. So this stadium was about 1,400 people. It's a really big chunk of people, especially in a rural state like Iowa. So a lot of people got to hear Andrew Yang really drop the hammer in person, and they got to see the Yang Gang and the Yangapalooza in person, and they get to see what this whole thing is about, right? The passion, the human-centered capitalism, the new way forward, right? There's this image that I really love. It kind of breaks down what the lasting message of Andrew Yang, a new way forward. A way forward where we can look at our kids in the eyes and say, your country loves you, your country values you, and you are going to be all right. That's just awesome, man. That's just awesome. Like, he kills it. He nails it. Anyhow, I love that that's the kind of the lasting message that is the speech delivered. I think that was definitely needed from the campaign. We know Andrew Yang he's got his math down. We know that he's a smart guy. Everyone can see that by now. It's time to really bring in the compassion, the human element. The week's been huge, right? I mean, the reception to that was pretty big. Not from really mainstream media, but there's been a lot of footage and talk about people just lingering in Iowa, in the Yang Gang, just yanging their friends and family and locals in the area. Like, it really caused a stirring in Iowa, right? And then we get news today, November 7th, about a week after this event, that Andrew Yang's dropping $1 million in campaign ads to Iowa. And this is really brilliant strategy from his campaign. It's like a 1-2 punch, right? He gets the rumblings going. People see him in person. They see the Yang Gang. They're understanding that something is happening here. Their wave is building up, right? He talks about waves in his speech a lot and how we need to be the wave. The Yang Gang, his support base, expanding outward and overwhelming the system. So he hits that really hard in his speech. And then this ad drops, right? And I want to show you guys this ad. It's really interesting. It doesn't seem very Andrew-esque at first, but we'll dissect it in a minute here.
The son of immigrants who came here seeking the American dream, Andrew...
Well, that's not... hold on, guys. 1 second here. It's not showing. Technical difficulties. There we go. All right. Sorry, guys. Here we go. We'll start over.
The son of immigrants who came here seeking the American dream, Andrew Yang. His parents taught him about hope and hard work, a leader in education. Andrew Yang, the founder of Venture for America, a nonprofit that helped create thousands of jobs. President Obama named Andrew a champion of change, and his ideas are a blueprint for a new way forward. An economy where big tech and Wall Street are held accountable. A healthcare system with Medicare for all that takes on drug companies to lower prices. A fight against climate change that confronts big polluters.
We have to rewrite the rules of the 21st century so that they work for us.
Andrew Yang, parent, patriot, not a politician. A new leader who understands that what's coming is the greatest economic transformation in history and who can lead us in the fight for the future that we want. For President Andrew Yang, a new way forward.
I'm Andrew Yang, and I approve this message.
All right. So you see how that ad really hammers home some of the elements of his speech last Friday. The father, patriot, not a politician element, where he is again emphasizing, as a father, we need to fix this shit. Our kids are not all right. And then they have all that imagery in there of, the kids running through the field. We have to fight for a future that we want. And a thing that I noticed, and a lot of other people have commented on, this ad doesn't mention UBI explicitly, except in writing, like some discreet writing towards the bottom. And it's really interesting that he's kind of letting his flagship policy take a backseat and trying to expand, saying, we're for Medicare for all. Climate is a huge initiative as well. Showing Andrew Yang is sort of more well-rounded than people gave him credit for early on. So I think it's a great ad. It was really high energy. I think an Iowan, if that comes on the TV and they're in the kitchen or whatever, that would get their attention. They're like, oh, something interesting is happening on the television right now. So I think that's going to provide excellent exposure right when he needs it, right? That's going to lead us into the November debates. Andrew Yang is going to perform there. I think he's shown us a very steady, impressive rise in his ability to perform these political debates, right? So, man, he's on the rise. The Yang Gang is on the rise. And I think this is exactly what Andrew Yang meant when he said we're going to peak at the right time. So, yeah, guys, that's what's new in the Yang camp. That's a little bit of our strategy moving forward. Let's talk about that actually for a second here, if we're not over time. But the strategy, right? So we've got this thing in the Yang Gang we're organizing called Yang Week. That's in early January. We're trying to get 1,000 Yang Gang. If more, that's amazing. But 1,000 Yang Gang to flood the state for that entire week, no matter where you're from. If you can get there and be there and help spread the message of Andrew Yang a month before they start voting. And I mean, that's a newsworthy story, right? You've got, 4 digits worth of Americans flying into Iowa, taking time away from work, time away from family, in the dead of winter to go and spread the message in Iowa, like basically the Keystone State. That state is so strategically important because it shows that the candidate can win. And that's the number one thing that people say about Andrew Yang. Oh, he can't win. I tell you what, if he comes out of Iowa with a significant chunk of delegates, even like 8 delegates. If he came out with 8 delegates, I think that's what he would get if he had 15% support in the state. That would be a story. That would be a story in and of itself. And then we already have a natural advantage for several reasons that we can talk about later. But we have a natural advantage in states like New Hampshire and Nevada that are already warm to Andrew Yang just by the nature of the demographics, the economic situation in general. With Nevada already automating away tons of jobs, and New Hampshire already having lost its manufacturing industry, one of Andrew Yang's key talking points. These are states that he's already going to do naturally really well in. He's got strong allies in New Hampshire with he's not a former governor, but he ran for governor I think once or twice. Steve Marchand is a huge, and he's part of Andrew Yang's campaign, right? So we've got friends in that state. And that state, if Iowa is a story, and Andrew Yang performs well in that state, New Hampshire will lean even harder into Andrew Yang. And then you've got the first state you showed well, the second state you dominated, Nevada he could potentially dominate. So you've got the look at the story, look at the narrative. Think about what an average voter would think when they see that. He slams Iowa, or he gets a reasonable percentage in Iowa. He slam dunks in New Hampshire. He slam dunks in Nevada. That's 2 to 2.5 out of 3. That's looking really good for Andrew Yang, and the rest of the country is going to be like, holy cow, I need to know what's going on there. And that's the wave. That's the wave, baby. So, my son Caden James, I finally convinced him to vote Yang. Are you a little youngster? Bubba, tell everybody. Tell everybody they gotta vote for Andrew. It's our future, guys. Let's do it. Yang 2020.